Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming tonight. It's an honor to be able to take some of your time because, we only have so much of it. And it's a precious commodity, something that we don't have an endless supply of. And, we got to watch every minute of our day. And so I promise to make sure that the information I give you is current, it is accurate, and I'll do my best to be entertaining. At the very least, it'll be compelling and great information. What we're talking about is about our health. Now, where we got our start was 10 years ago. We started working in the medical community. We started working in serving doctors in clinics and hospitals. Those that wanted a different plan of how to overcome the symptoms of ill health. Now, originally we started out dealing with just metabolic syndrome, and we're going to talk about what that is. But more recently, we dealt with the gut and the digestion, something that very few companies dealt with. But recently, this last 6 months, we've been doing more and more research, and I'm going to share some cutting edge research that has just come out. This presentation has never been seen by anybody before. You're the first ones to see it. And I'm going to be sharing information, cutting edge information that very, very few people have heard about, seen. And I'm going to show you a video that you can count on a few thousand hands of how many have actually seen what you're about to see, what goes on in your body that science did not know anything about before. So it's going to be really exciting. Again, my name's Jason Whitney. You're here with 3Believe, and we're going to go over some great stuff. So I'm going to continue to talk a little bit because as I see here, it needs to upload.
Huh? Yeah.
It's I honestly, the stuff I'm going to share with you, I literally finished the PowerPoint presentation. What was it? 1 minute, 60 seconds before we came online. Now it's not perfect, but boy, it's great stuff. So I've been working on it solid for the last 2 days and wanted to get it in, but you know how time goes. It just, you can't get it all in. And so it'll keep on getting better and better. Let me give you a little bit of information while this is uploading. I have to upload the PowerPoint to the webinar. What I'm going to be talking about is I'm going to be mentioning some words that you haven't heard before. One of them is called BioMe. Now, BioMe is something all of us have. You've always had it. Mankind's always had it. We just haven't always known about it. Now, this is stuff we first really started studying BioMe about 5 years ago. And when that happened, they're comparing the new research that happened just 5 years ago. I'm going to show you that video that took place less than 6 months ago. Okay, but the study of BioMe came about 5 years ago, and they're comparing the new information and the cutting edge science that they discovered to Darwinism and the impact of vaccines on mankind. But I don't think they can see my screen.
No, they can.
Oh, they can?
Yeah,
okay.
They can see you.
Okay. All right. I'm just making sure. I got my technical assistant here. I was doing like I said, the webinar, the PowerPoint. They're comparing how the impact of this science of the BioMe and what it's doing inside our body, and it's always done it, to the impact to mankind in saving lives to vaccinations. And if you've studied that at all, we're talking about things that have saved billions of lives. All right. And we're going to go into that. So I see that we're up. we're going to talk about how Americans are sick. And there is an epidemic of chronic illness. And we are not well. And the good news is, and the bad news is, well, what will follow? And so let me make sure I'm clicking the right button here.
Don't use your stuff.
Just click there. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk about chronic disease. Now, that's a word that you've all heard a lot about, but I'm sure that you're not quite sure what it means. Okay. Now, the good news is, rest assured, that it's absolutely preventable. It's not something, a card you're dealt with, and you don't have to, you just have to deal with the bad news. Now, the bad news is that the epidemic of Americans having chronic disease is growing. It's growing very, very fast, too fast for science to be able to take care of it. I'm going to ask you to let me tell you my story. Now, my story is one that you're going to be able to relate to. So we're not going to talk about me. That's me there. Look at that huge, poor person. I'm going to talk about how I contracted several life-threatening chronic diseases, and then I had none. Now, part of the reason that I had chronic disease, you'll see there, I was sitting at a table. See that pan next to me? I was in Chicago when this picture was taken. First time I had a true Chicago deep dish pizza. It was delicious, but boy, when you have that too often, you pay the price. So I'm gonna suggest and even challenge that you want to hear my story, even though you don't know me, even though you may not care a lot about me. But again, you're going to want to hear my story because of what it's going to provide. I'm going to give you 3 secrets. The first secret I'm going to give you is the fact that you have a chronic disease too, or at least the odds says that you do. The CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, our government watchdog for keeping our country well, they say that 80% of Americans have at least one chronic disease. And that is scary. So if all of us share at least one chronic disease, what is it? And how do we get rid of it? How in the world did we get it? My story talks about me having 5 chronic diseases of the top 10 that kill people. I had 5 of them, and I had them at a relatively young age. All right. Now, the second reason you're going to want to listen to my story is how I didn't have them anymore. I had them started out, or at least when I did the test, I discovered I had it at 44. I'm 56, and I haven't had it for over 10 years. I'm going to explain and tell you how I did that and how you can too. And the third reason, I'm going to give you all the secrets. I'm going to give you all the details and tell you how to do it. So at the age of 44, here's some pictures of me. Obviously, I didn't turn down too many meals. I was 41 years here and not doing really well. This is what 280 pounds looks like. This is what 185 pounds looks like. That circle in the back, that's me at a wrestling camp. And, I was kind of an athlete, kind of a stud. There's a picture of me with my fiery red long hair. You could tell that I spent a little bit of time in the gym, and I was pretty good. I'm going to tell you this not to brag, but only to stress the importance that once you were healthy doesn't mean you're always going to be healthy. I enjoyed some great success. I had 5 state championships in wrestling. I was all-state football. I was an All-American my senior year. And I competed internationally and won the world championship in wrestling at 191.5 pounds. I went from a world champion to a eating champion. Not a medal that I wore around my neck, but I wore it around my waist and everywhere else on my body. Not something to be proud of. It was hard for me to swallow. My pride was definitely hurt. So here I am on the right at 41 years old, 280 pounds. Here I am at 56-year old, holding my granddaughter at 197 pounds. So not too much difference, right? From when I was 18 years old, almost 40 years later. And this is what 197 pounds looks like. There's me with my lovely bride. We had just finished a exercise and a run. And so my story started with every single day of my life, of my adult life, that is. I was almost morbidly obese. Now, morbidly obese means that I was 100 pounds overweight. All my joints hurt all the time. I had a stomach ache every single day, except immediately when I ate, I didn't have any for about 30 minutes. And then they'd come right back. I had headaches all the time, sometimes migraines. Oddly enough, with as much as I was eating, I had no energy. I wanted to go to sleep at 3:30 in the afternoon. I was grumpy, very moody. A funny story now, but it wasn't funny then. Before I became a food scientist 10 years ago, I was a financial advisor, and I had a company, and I had about 30 professional loan officers and financial advisors working for me. Well, I didn't know this. I thought they were just being nice to me, but my employees would come and arrange with my secretary to make sure that I had lunch. Has Jason made sure that does he have lunch planned? Where is it at? Because I'm going to interact with Jason throughout the day. And if it's past lunch and he hasn't eaten, he is a bear. He is ornery. He's moody. He's angry. And I don't want him to unleash that wrath on me. I was embarrassed. I had no idea, but I was hypoglycemic. And I didn't know and understand why I was acting that way or how much it affected my mood. I was literally eating myself to an early grave. At that time, I had over 10 chronic diseases and didn't know it. Now, can you relate to any of this? Do any of these symptoms sound familiar, or any of them familiar to you? Now, let me explain what identifies a chronic disease. Now, a chronic disease is any human health condition that's long-lasting. Now, long-lasting is anything that's lasted for at least 3 months and will continue to last till death if what caused it isn't corrected. So a chronic disease is obesity. Chronic disease is depression. Chronic disease is, what I had. I was almost morbidly obese. But that's something you can see. You could see that I had some type of problem going on. There's chronic diseases that you can't see, but it doesn't mean that they're not there. Diabetes is a chronic disease that you can't see. Asthma and COPD, depression and heart disease are all chronic diseases that are hidden. And there's many, many more. We're going to talk about metabolic syndrome and how it plays into a chronic disease. But here's a short list of all the chronic diseases. If you can just kind of look through it, look at the second one down. Alzheimer's is a chronic disease. All right. Autoimmune disorders are chronic. Bipolar is a chronic disease. You'll see there even deafness and epilepsy, and these are just some of the list of chronic diseases. There's many, many more. Again, at 280 pounds, I had over 10 of them, 5 of which was on the top 10 things that people die from. So here's the list right here. Now, if you're over 65 or older, 85% of Americans have at least one chronic disease. I was 44 and I had 10 of them. Okay. So I have to sign my signature off on that one. 68% of the population have at least 2 chronic diseases. So I had to sign my signature to that. The proud owner of those 2 chronic diseases. But as it goes on, here's the top 10 of the chronic diseases that the Americans have. Hypertension at 58% of the population. High cholesterol, I had that one too. I had arthritis in the beginning stages. That's why my joints were so sore. My doctor told me that I was on my way to have heart disease and not quite had it, but if I didn't change something, I was going to get it. I was type 2 diabetic and hypoglycemic, so I proudly have to hang that medal around my neck. And I was somewhat depressed. I didn't take medication for it. I didn't stay home, but I was not the happiest camper. So here I have 5 of the top 10 chronic diseases. Not something to be proud of, and definitely I was amongst the 85% of Americans that have at least one. So I went from world champion just 40 years later to the list of 85% that had a chronic disease. Now, what I'm going to tell you is that in just 12 weeks, I got rid of all my weight. I lost 80 pounds, and I did it without going to wrestling practice. I didn't have to sweat it off, work in the gym, run around the track, and grapple around on the ground with other sweaty people. Okay. Now, some other effects of a chronic disease. Now, remember, chronic disease is a long list. You are likely to have already at least one of them. If you have high blood pressure, if you're elevated glucose levels or cholesterol, you have a chronic disease. You've got more than one. All right. 3 out of every $4 that are spent on healthcare is spent on a chronic disease. If you have it, on average, you're going to spend $8,000 a year. You can't afford to have a chronic disease. Every 3 out of $4 is a significant financial burden on people. You know what that's like if you have them, and they're not going to just go away. Health insurance isn't going to cover it forever. We already know it's getting worse and worse and more expensive. A person with a chronic disease is going to pay 5 times more than a person without a chronic disease. Well, there's another reason why we can't afford it. Medical expenses. Now, this one blew me away. Are the number one cause of bankruptcies in America. Number one. Okay, 25% of people that have a chronic disease have some type of activity that they can't do. They can't run, or they can't walk, or they can't walk for very long. All right. Well, I definitely had mobility restrictions. When I was in high school, a senior, I held the bench press record for the entire state at 465 pounds. I weighed 185 and could bench 465. Then I couldn't even do one pull-up. It was horribly embarrassing. My body went from pretty amazing to pretty amazingly sick. I couldn't do a pull-up. Tying my shoes wasn't even easy. Sit-ups was a joke. I wouldn't sit up out of bed. I'd roll out of bed simply because of the restriction of the added fat and then the added weight, and then my muscles were weak. Jogging, well, that was a joke. I mean, my joints hurt too bad to even attempt jogging. Okay? So, what did I do here? I have Callie. I have a little technical difficulty here. I don't know what happened, but it was just a way of my life. It's all blue. So I don't know if you can, are you seeing on the screen that the picture is blue? If someone would just let me know. I see a blue on my screen. I just want to see if you guys are seeing the same thing. Okay, well, looked like it went away. Finally, good. This one made me laugh. I kind of joked. I laugh now, but then I definitely was not laughing. Even picking things up off the floor was a task. As this is, this person just says, yeah, forget it. It's down on the ground. I'm not going to go down and reach for it. Okay. So again, chronic diseases, 3 reasons why you want the information that we have. The reason is because the chances are, if you're an American and if you're over the age of 30 years old, you have an 80% chance of having at least one of the chronic diseases. The second reason is learn how I overcame them. And the third one is that you're going to get some of those secrets right here tonight. So not only is chronic disease is an epidemic, but it is what takes 3 out of 4 deaths in our country. So 3 out of 4 deaths that occur through a chronic disease. All these that are listed: cancer, heart disease, diabetes, stroke. Guess what? They're chronic diseases, right? So a chronic disease really starts in your digestion. Now, we're not just going to talk about your stomach. We're going to talk about your entire digestive tract. It's the number one health complaint by patients. Over 50% of people have stomach issues every day as far as what they can feel, right? Now, they have an issue. Over 80% have an issue. They're not yet manifesting it by a feeling, but 50% are actually feeling it. Okay. Now, a study done showed that Americans, a large study showed that you're only digesting about 47% of the foods and nutrients that you're eating. Why is that? It's because there's something going on in your stomach. Now, that word that I talked about earlier called microbiome. The E is silent, and really, literally what it is microorganisms on and inside your body. Don't worry, don't panic. They've always been there. They're the way they're supposed to be. What a lot of people don't realize is that we are more bacteria than we are human cells. So here's this diagram. You'll see that the red part of the body, about just above the knee, is an example of how much of your body is actually made up of human cells. In other words, if we took all the cells that is in a human body, about 30 trillion of them, so you've got quite a few, and then you took all of the bacteria cells and counted them up, it's well over 100 trillion. Some reports are even saying that it's greater than this illustration. As high as 90% are bacteria and 10% are human. So what are you? Well, we're more than just us. We have companions. We live together. Let me explain it in another way. Let's say that you had in your lawn, you were sick and tired of having the only lawn in the neighborhood that looked like this, right? You tried everything. You'd take some seed and you'd plant the seed, and it would grow a little bit and then it'd die off. And so you called up an expert. Came by and said, well, I can check it out and tell you what's wrong. Well, I can find out here that 10% of your problem is dead grass. 90% of your problem is dead soil. So associate where the problem is if I told you, if I was that expert and I said, this is your problem and this is how to solve your grass problem, right? 10% of the problem is that your grass just isn't living, right? 90% of the problem is that there's problems in the soil, all right? Your soil's dead. Where would you like me to spend my time? Do you want me to spend all my time working on 10%? Because if I do, you're only going to notice a 10% improvement. But if I work on the 90% where most of the problem is, we can solve almost all of your grass problems. That is exactly what we're talking about here, is that doesn't it make sense that if 90% of your body, my body, all of our bodies are made up of bacteria, shouldn't we understand more about what that bacteria does for us and does against us? Now you're starting to see why 5 years ago, scientists were saying what we've discovered about the bacteria, the biome that's in our gut, is as important as saying it will make a change, an improvement to the quality of life for humans as much as understanding antibiotics and immune us to these deadly diseases over 100 years ago. All right, that's the leap that we've made. So I want you to really focus on, more than anything else, we have to focus on what's going on in our gut. They have said that all chronic diseases, every single chronic disease, all the ones that I've talked about, start in your gut. They are caused because there's something wrong with your gut. They've even gone as far as to say that if we catch it soon enough, without it manifesting itself deeply into the tissue, that all of the chronic diseases can be solved. And that's a bold statement. This is coming from not from companies selling a product. This is from the scientific community. In fact, they're actually saying that in just a few years, we'll be able to customize, engineer a specific bacteria just for one person, and it will cure them of that problem. Let me give you some examples of what they're doing right now. So they've already have worked with Parkinson's disease, attention deficit syndrome, work with Alzheimer's, obesity, leaky gut, these type of things. And they say that already that they have a 90% success rate in remedying those chronic disease issues. They're saying that they will be able to solve all of them in just a few more years. That is a bold statement, but it's all parting to understand what the role that our microbiome plays. So think about that for a second. It definitely makes you go, if it's that important, then maybe it's something that I should focus on for the problems that we're having. If you have any of the issues that I've talked about, any of the things that are on this list, then that's a reason for you to listen. Now, the things that you're seeing here on this list are the ones that are the most active in research, the ones that have been able to have the greatest success. Look at some of the ones that are on there. These are ones that I know that some of you are victims of. And if not you, then definitely someone that you know and love. So the microbiome is a key element. Out of microbiome, then comes metabolic syndrome. Now, metabolic syndrome is identified up there. You'll see that MSX. That is an abbreviation of metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome is more specifically dealing with the pancreas, the digestion, as we've talked about, and the liver, and the roles that the liver and the pancreas play together with our digestion and our microbiome. So here is some of that cutting edge science that I told you about. Here is some photographs of actually active microbiome in the human gut. Photographs done by a special scan unit that's never been seen before. That's what your biome. This is nothing else. This isn't other cells. This is just the bacteria in your gut communicating. Here's another shot zoomed in inside veins. Now, this next one here, this is the first time I've tried to do this. If I can, no. It won't play it? Mm-hmm. Oh.
You have to embed it into the plane.
All right, I'll have to figure out a way to do this. Rats, that's too bad. Let me just explain what this video is. We'll play it on our website. You'll be able to click on it there. This is an actual cell. And if I was to play it, what would happen is it would actually light up, actually seeing for the first time ever a microbiome bacteria communicating to the brain, and then on the other side of the cell, it would receive the signal back from the brain. They're now calling the microbiome, the community, so all of your bacteria, your enzymes, and your probiotics that are down in your gut, the second brain. So, and they're even saying that it is in some cases more important, or it takes first command over the brain that's up inside our skull. That is why they're saying this is cutting edge science that will change humanity as far as we know it. So we have different types. So here's an illustration of your gut. All right. So you'll see your stomach there in the center. All right. And then you'll see the small and large intestine. You'll see different colors. The reason why that's being illustrated is your body has different bacteria of different strains in different parts of your body because they do different things. And if you're not treating them properly with the right foods and the right products, then those micro lives, those microscopic organisms die off. That is why we are having diseases that we've never had before. Why? Two primary reasons. Because of the food we're eating is not produced the way it used to be. So our gut is not fortified with what we need to have. And because we're eating such high carbohydrate content that it impacts our liver and it impacts our pancreas, which then causes our weight gain, our diabetes, our high blood pressure, our high cholesterol. If we can balance now, and we've been very successful in approaching just the metabolic syndrome approach, which is your liver and your pancreas with the foods that you eat. But now we're coupling that with actually addressing your biome simultaneously. Two magic silver bullets put together to have you get the type of results that you see just right here. Now, I know I'm only listing 5 things here, but I want you to look at over right next to the red column where let's look at the top one. Total cholesterol, that's in red. Right next to that was before I started the program that I'm telling you about. My cholesterol level is 336. After 12 weeks of following it, I dropped that by 49%. My good cholesterol, the HDL, H for healthy, H for high. You want that one to be high. Mine was too low. I increased it by 79%. Then we go to the triglycerides. Again, I was way higher than I was supposed to be. I dropped that by almost 80%. I was shooting for 80, didn't quite make it, but I'm very happy with 78%. And then the LDL, that's L for low, L for lousy. You want that one lower. I was way high at 219. I dropped that by 49%. Now the ratio, just for those of you to understand, those are a lot of numbers to remember, a lot of different titles. The most important one that you want to focus on is the ratio, meaning how much HDL, the good cholesterol, do I have compared to my total cholesterols? And you never want to be over 4.0. I was 9.8, so high that I could not get insurance. They would not insure me because my risk was too high. They're basically saying you're going to die and cost us too much money. Or worse, you're going to get sick first and then die and still cost us a lot of money. I dropped that to a very healthy 3.4% with a 65% drop. That's the type of results that people are getting over and over again. Why? Because we're dealing with the source of the problem. We were dealing with kind of like a kindergarten level on your digestion in the biomes, but now we have a program to really dial it in, to know exactly what it is that you specifically need help with. It's the detection. There are some scary statistics. We have to do something. If you're an American, you have an 80% chance of being overweight, and it is not going to get better. It's going to get worse. High blood pressure and high cholesterol, diabetes and the fatty liver. These are all issues that we all have to take care of. Why? Because our gut does not have the enzymes and bacteria that they need to have. You don't have the probiotics feeding the bacteria. That's what your bacteria is feeding off of, in addition to the foods that you're eating. And you're not giving your companions the right stuff, and then it will react with your other organs, the most important ones like your liver and your pancreas, and then you get the results that you see on the screen. So it all makes very, very good sense. Sadly, 11% of the people on this call right now have diabetes, but they don't even know it. Now, it's a huge number. 62% of all the deaths that happen yesterday, today, and tomorrow are going to be caused by metabolic syndrome and chronic disease. So it's not just the blood pressure and the cholesterol and the weight and the fatty liver. It's now all of the others of the chronic diseases that you saw me list earlier. Don't take a chance. Don't just let these issues see if they're going to resolve themselves. You know that the medications that they're prescribing, you ask your doctor next time you talk to them. Ask them, will this blood pressure, this cholesterol, or whatever medication, will it cure me of my ailment? They'll be the first one to tell you they're not designed to cure, they're designed to treat you. That means that you'll have to continue to take it. And you know, you've seen the commercials on TV that you get more symptoms. They give you half of the commercial is spent explaining about the negative life-threatening conditions that you're going to get if you do take the medication. It's crazy to me. I would never be able to sell anybody on anything if I would have went to my wife and said, I'm going to spend half of our date every time we go out telling you why you should not marry me. You think she would have said yes when I proposed? Absolutely not. She would have laughed me right out the door. Now, 62% of deaths that occur because of the things we've been talking about sometimes gets lost in how big that is. 62% of the deaths, that's 1.5 million people every year. That's 3 people every minute. Don't be one of those people. So you've learned now what causes diabetes and cholesterol and blood pressure and all the other chronic diseases. We have taken the time to learn what science has identified. We're staying on top of it, just like the cutting edge information. I personally read over 600 clinical studies in designing and creating this program for you. The symptoms are completely preventable if you catch it soon enough. And so the question that you have to ask yourself is, do I have it? And if you know that you have it, you have to understand that science is telling you this very stark warning. If you have one of the symptoms, you have to consider what it is that happened in your body of how you got that first one. And if you don't do something about changing of what happened to get the first one, you're going to get more, right? It's kind of like if you were if we went on a trip and I say, well, come down into this water. It's really hot. We're going to wash off a little bit and we're waist high in this water, and you feel a little nibble and then you feel a big bite and you look down on your foot and you see a big chunk of your body missing. And then we realize we're in a pool of piranha. Do you think that they're going to take one bite and then stop and not proceed on? Absolutely not. They're going to feed until you and I are gone. That's exactly what happens with the cascading event of what's going to happen with the symptoms of the things we talk about. If you do continue to do the same thing that got you the first symptom, you're going to get more because they're all interrelated, right? Remember what the studies have said. Our gut is the cause of all, not some, but all chronic diseases. So in what we're going to offer in our program is a simple test. Let us test you. Let us test your blood and let us test your gut. For the first time, we can check the gut, the only one that is clinically proven to be accurate. There are gut checks out there, but they're not accurate. They'll even admit themselves that they're not able to stand behind the results because they're not conclusively accurate. Ours has been proven to be actually the same every single time, unless, of course, your body changes. So here you'll see the food pyramid. We're all been used to it. It's actually been placed with the food plate, But this is part of the reason why your gut flora is not what it used to be, because there's not the microorganisms that are in this food anymore because of commercial publication or production. And we've replaced the suggested food pyramid with these processed foods. Now we know they taste yummy, and actually you can still indulge in some of them if you can fortify yourself with the right bacteria. We'll provide that with you too. So they recommend that you have fruits and vegetables and grains and proteins and dairy in the right ratio. But how many people do you know that follow this regimen and they don't get cured of their ailment? It's because that's not the whole problem. It's not even 1/10 of the problem. And so you have to look at what's happened. If you take a measurement of the advice that's been given to us by the USDA and the FDA, they started advising us in 1958 of how many carbohydrates, for example, I'm just giving you an example here, that we should be eating. It was about 25%, 25% in 1958, where only 32% of our population was overweight. Well, they made their last change in 2012. Each one of these years, in 1958, 78, 88, and on up to 2012 is when they made a change. Every time they made the change, they increased the amount of carbohydrates that they wanted us to eat. It started at 25, they made their first change up to 25%, then 35, then 45, then 65, then over 65 of our calories are coming from carbohydrates. At that same time, that increase of what they increased is that we had a 32% of the population were overweight, and it jumped up to 79%. That was reported in year 2010. That was 8 years ago, or seven years and 2 months ago. That's a 247% increase. Obesity increased 322%. Now, I find this really, really interesting. Look at our increase of those that are overweight was 247%. Look down here at the bottom, or at the bottom of that arrow. They recommended that we increase our carbohydrates by how much? Over that time from 58 to 2010, by 260%. Almost exactly the same of those that our nation increased in being overweight. You don't have to be a scientist to look at those numbers and say there is a correlation. But that 260% or 247% increase in overweight individuals, it's the same for those that have high blood pressure. It's the same that have diabetes. It's the same as those that have high cholesterol and other chronic diseases. If you take a map and you lay it across this timeline, you'll see an increase almost exactly matching that carbohydrate increase. It's not just carbs by themselves. It's also those microbiome that were lost because they can't survive in such a high carbohydrate content, and also all the commercialization of the food. So it is something that you cannot ignore. Eating this stuff is okay occasionally, but only if you have the digestive enzymes and biome in your gut, and a program where you can still be happy and enjoy that food, but still be healthy. None of us are ultimately happy when we're suffering from an ailment. Now, I'm not talking about carbohydrates being evil or eating processed foods, or you can never try it again or you're going to die a horrible death. I'm just saying that too much of a good thing can definitely have its price. It will make us sick, and it is making us sick. It's made you sick. I pray that it won't make you sicker. And so the suggestion is don't do what you've done. So let me just give you a little bit of science. It's not just hocus pocus that we're talking about here. Let me just explain a little bit so that it makes sense to you. Now, we're not going to talk about the microbiome in this example, but in here, we're going to talk about when you eat a carbohydrate food, okay? What happens is it breaks down into glucose. Now, you'll listen to some people and they'll say, your body's got to have glucose. If you don't eat carbohydrates, your body can't function because it must live on glucose. Well, that's not true. Your body can live on other macronutrients like fat, healthy fats, and like proteins and ketones. When there's not glucose available, then the body can run on glucose, both your brain and your muscle tissue. So that they don't tell the full story. And so when you eat a carbohydrate, it breaks down into glucose. And then your pancreas says, well, I see glucose in the bloodstream. My job is to make sure that the cells in the body can absorb that glucose. And your cells can't do that without insulin. It's just kind of like insulin is the key to the door. And the insulin brings along the energy that the cell wants, which is the glucose, as illustrated here in the red dot, right? So the cell cannot absorb the glucose by itself. It has to have that insulin. The insulin opens up the cell and says, here you go. Here's your energy that you've been looking for. Now go out and repair yourself, repair tissue, go out and make new cells, go and do what you are designed to do. The problem is that when we follow the recommendations of the modern day diet, we're eating 60 to 65% of our calories coming from carbohydrates. What happens is your pancreas gets tired. The reason why it gets tired is because there's excess glucose left in the bloodstream. Now, why is it there extra glucose in your bloodstream where it didn't used to be that way? Part of that reason is that your cells will become insulin resistant. They'll stop listening to the door knocking of insulin on the cellular wall saying, hey, here I am, I got some more glucose for you. And the cell says, wait a minute, you were just here an hour ago with lunch. Now you're here with a can of pop, a candy bar, a cookie, a snack. And what's that snack made up of primarily? Well, it's made up of carbohydrates. Well, you might be saying, but wait a minute, I don't eat those things. I only eat fruit. Well, fruit is still broke down into glucose. Too much fruit can be unhealthy for us. And you scratch your head, and how can that be? It's natural. It's healthy. It can be healthy. Too much of any good thing can harm us. And that's exactly what's happening to us as Americans. Too many of us are eating a good thing that's lopsided. We're not balancing the right ratios of our foods. And we call that macro balancing our foods, right? And that's part of the program that we'll teach you. That's part of what we'll coach you in. And we'll tell you. You don't have to try to figure it out for yourself. We'll give you all that information. We'll guide you through it. So as your cells become insulin resistant, they don't absorb the glucose. And that's why extra glucose is left in your bloodstream. So your pancreas secretes even more insulin. And then your pancreas becomes hyperinsulinic. It gets tired and it starts to shut down. It starts to break down and not work properly. And that's where you get a type 2 diabetic. And untreated at type 2, they're starting to see that test results are showing that type 2s start to manifest the same symptoms and have much the same issues that a type 1 diabetic has, because the pancreas starts to die just like it does in a type 1 diabetic. You don't want any of that. So eating this way will kill off the flora, the microbiomes that are in your stomach. It'll affect your pancreas, your liver, and it will not do you any favors over time. Hyperinsulinemia is not a friend of yours. It's not something that you want, but it is something that you're going to have unless you change the popular known diets that are out there and stop eating the way that is highly being recommended. So you now know how you got it, right? You know what organs have been affected. Studies show that you can overcome all of that stuff, and there are places to go to be able to remedy all this. And so I've given you the 3 secrets, how to do it in more detail. Our program helps you with resetting all of them and doing it in an easy way. So if I can, if you'll just let me, before I go to there, let me just show you our averages. So if we take all of our clients and we average them all together, here's what the average is. On average, it's 5.2 pounds of fat loss the first week, 12 inches if you measure your circumference in your first month. 66% of the people's biomarkers are improved within the first month. Now, a biomarker is things like your blood pressure and your cholesterol, things like that, your body fat. 82% of the people that have medication completely are eliminated in the first 30 days. At least they are reduced. And 100% of the people so far have reported an improvement in feeling well and healthy. They all feel better. And that's the things that you can expect. So you saw my numbers. Here's somebody else that's not me, but look at these numbers. Some of them are even better than mine. His ratio dropped from 9.2 to 3.6. That was a 255% improvement. So it's not just once in a while or one person. We do all have different bodies, but if we're dealing with the microbiome, we'll know exactly what individual needs you have. This is personalized nutrition at its finest. We've never been able to do this before. You hear about people talking about personalized nutrition, but much of it was guesswork. You just had to try several different diets back to back to back to back. Well, who has the time for that, the money for that, or the knowledge? Our program is very simple. This is just one of our phase 1 sheets. You have 4 meals a day. It's very simple. One sheet explains what to do, when to eat, how to eat, and you can eliminate, if you catch it soon enough, at least all the studies are showing that you can catch and get rid of all of these symptoms. Just don't wait. The cost of health can be very important. We compared our program, some of the most popular diets out there. You'll see the zone on average for someone that loses, in order to lose 30 pounds, this is the cost per pound that they spent on average, ranging from $151. You can see there. You'll see Weight Watchers is $50 a pound, or $49.40. Nutrisystems a little cheaper than them, and then the HCG injections. Well, that's not even cost of food, right? You got $30 a pound. Ours is $10 a pound, a third the cost of the lowest one. And so it's very, very cost effective. It's less than $4 a meal. You're spending more than that now. And so if I may, can I give you an offer? Would you allow me to present to you my recommendation of something that we're willing to give for you? We've spent a lot of time in developing this, and I'm kind of excited to give it to you. So the special offer is that we got to check your gut. It's all in the test. Personalized nutrition, just like that specialist that came to your lawn to tell you why your grass wasn't growing. You wouldn't know. Is it the seed? Is it I'm not fertilizing it enough? I'm not watering it enough? You wouldn't know until we identify what the problem is. That's what this gut test will do. We'll send you a kit. You'll test it. When they first developed this test, it was $5,000 for this test. Now, the value of it is $1,997. But the offer I'm going to give you is going to be less than that, much, much, much less than that. But that's what it costs. When we provide this to doctors and the clinics and the insurance is paying for it, that's the fee that they pay. And the insurance companies pay it. We give you intuitive coaching. That helps you with why you eat the way you do, why we go and stand in front of the refrigerator with the door open, looking in there, wanting something, but we don't know what we want. And we only ate 45 minutes ago. And that's what the intuitive coaching, that's part of the program. And you'll see off there on the right how much those two programs are total up. So far, we're up to $3,994. Then we'll give you actual food. We're not going to give you a shopping list and to say, go fend for yourself. Good luck. We hope that it works out for you or the quality of the food you're getting is good. That's a $735 offer or value. And so let me recap. The microbiome test, so we test your gut. We know exactly the good bacteria are there, the bad bacteria are there. We know how to handle them. We identified them, and that one's covered. All right, that's almost $2,000. And then the intuitive coaching, that's almost $2,000. Then we have the meal replacement. We got to feed you the right stuff. Well, we make the foods ourselves. We have a processing plant. We don't give that responsibility to somebody else. We're the ones that did the research, so we take that on ourselves. We're up to $4,700 so far. But it doesn't stop there. We give you a personalized enzyme plan. We tell you what kind of enzymes. We get all that from the biotest, right? We wouldn't know that. We'd be guessing. We'd be looking at your symptoms, just like everybody else has been since enzyme supplementation first came out. They're just guessing. Well, that's a $825 value test. Then we'll give you a probiotic plan. That's, you got to have the balance of enzymes and probiotics, but which ones? There's so many. And have you read the titles and names of these things? You can't even enunciate them. And you don't know which ones are working right for you or which ones are for you unless you have a test. That's why we have the microbiome test at the top. Here we are now at $5,900 value of what we're going to offer. Now remember, this isn't what you're going to pay. This is just the value of when we sell it to doctors and their patients come in and they have it covered through the medical community. These are the prices that are very, very familiar. Then we give you a personalized food list. So these are the foods that your body, we've identified it by the Biome test, your body actually speaking back to us, telling us that, remember, the bacteria in your gut is communicating with your brain and every cell in your body saying, this is the food that I need. Are you really lactose intolerant? Are you really gluten intolerant? Do you really supposed to eat this food over that food? Well, you can read a magazine, but how are you going to know unless it's tested? We'll give you that list of foods. It won't be a mystery anymore. It'll be right there in the list. We'll give you a personalized food kill list. That means these are the foods you should not eat. We give you a list of ones that are optimal, the ones that are okay, and then ones that just don't eat this food. We include that into the offer. Then we give you, let's kind of just recap here. We've gone over the biome, the intuitive coaching. We give you the meal replacement, the real food, the actual feed you. Then we'll give you the personalized enzyme, the personalized probiotic, the food list, and the foods not to eat. So far we're at $6,600, but remember, that's not what you're going to pay with this special offer that I'm going to give you. Now we got to check your blood. So we're going to give you a bioscale because I don't want you, losing weight is not the goal, right? We got to lose fat and we don't want to lose hydration. We don't want to lose water weight. That is something that we also weigh too, right? So many diet plans, doctors are now telling their patients, don't go on the diet anymore because they're just gimmicks. You're actually in worse physical shape after the diet than you were before, because when you go on the diet, you're going to gain the weight back if you don't deal with what caused you to gain that weight, right? And when you come back to me and I check you, you have less muscle mass than you did before you dieted, and you're less hydrated than you were before you dieted. Well, that's terrible. That's why they're telling you not to even do the diet if you're going to do those type of diet plans. So how do you know what your muscle mass and your hydration is unless you have the scale to measure it? We're going to send you that scale. We're going to send you a test kit. You're not going to have to go to the doctor for the biogut test. We're not going to have to send you to the doctor for the blood test. It'll be done right there in your home. You perform it. It's easy as can be. We're up to $7,400 so far. Can you believe this is what people pay when they go to their doctor? The personal result evaluation. Now, what that means is we're actually going to help you understand the results that you get from your blood test and your microbiome test. So you don't have to figure it out for yourself. It's already there. That's a $350 value. Training videos. You got to have that. We're going to tell you in detail what and how to do the diet. when to take this food, when to take that. If you have this symptom, this is what you do. You'll have a whole library of videos that you'll be able to access. We've just pushed over $8,000 in value of what other people would have to pay. But it doesn't stop there. I'm going to offer you tonight, if you take advantage of this, a bonus package. So far we're at $8,265 value that they pay if they go to their medical professional, and they get it through us, through our doctors. But you don't have to pay that. We're going to give you flavored extracts because we're going to give you meal replacements, but we don't want you just to be stuck with one flavor, all right? We want you to have different flavors. So that's a $29 value. And then we're going to give you electrolytes because we want you to stay hydrated. And then we're going to give you an oil pump because we're going to give you some oil, omega oils. And it's just easier to measure with this oil pump, a shaker bottle so you can mix your shakes, your body measuring tape. Remember I said that on average you lose 12 inches your first month. How are you going to know unless you measure? You got to measure this stuff. We give you the tools to be able to do it. That's included in your kit. And then a sweetener. We've developed an all-natural sweetener. Sweeteners that are out there, as yummy as they taste, they're part of the problem when we have it too much. And I mean, sweeteners are everywhere. It's in our toothpaste, for heaven's sakes. And artificial sweeteners are not the answer. So ours is an all-natural sweetener that does not have any of the negative effects, and it tastes fantastic. We'll include some of that. And then our blocker. We actually have smart foods, which we haven't talked about yet, but that's part of why people can stay on our program for so long. We have things like pizza that normally is 700 calories for a personal pizza. Ours is 100, but I guarantee and promise you that it tastes just like gourmet pizza. But we've got breads and chips and cookies and sliced bread, and we have burritos and pot pies, and we have all the things that that is your comfort food, all of them with 90% less calories, no fat, low carbs. Well, this 3B blocker is the ingredient that we put in our foods that make it low carb and low fat, but still taste delicious. We give that to you so that when you're out and about, let's say at a restaurant, you can't control what you're eating. Take that and it will block that during that meal. That whole bonus offer on top of the previous list is $176. So you add it all up, it's $8,441, which other people pay when they go to their doctor, but not for you. You get a special offer that all of that is for a very reduced price of $797, not $8,441, but $797. That's the test. That's the food for 30 days. That's what you get. So you've got two offers here tonight. You got the $798 offer. If that's more than you can afford, then I have a second special offer. So just look at the ones that are grayed out, that have the line between it. You still get your food, all right? You get your bio kit, your scale. You won't get the gut test. You'll get the blood test. And then you get the training videos. I'm still going to give you some of the bonus items, the ones that are grayed out. You won't get the sweetener. You won't get the blockers for like going to a restaurant. Now that value is $4,380, what doctors charge their patients. But you can get for $395. So you have two offers. You can get it for $797, get the whole kit and caboodle. It'll tell you exactly what's going on in your gut. We'll know how to treat the issues that you're suffering from because we found out what your body is telling us. We're not guessing anymore. That one's $797. If that's more than what you want to pay for your health and to get over the problem, if you don't feel the need to know exactly what the problem is, then at least take the $395. We've been working for 10 years with the plan that's at the $395. It's worked marvelously, better than any other plan that doctors have ever prescribed to their patients. I just had a doctor today tell me that they continually look at other plans. Salespeople come into their clinic, selling them their plan, much bigger companies than us, but They don't have the results that we have. They don't have the ingredients. They don't have the testing. We've been selling that plan for $395 for 10 years. The $797 is the cutting edge. That's now we can really dial in and know exactly what's going on in your body. I am so excited about this change to our customers. I can't believe or I can't wait till I get the results of people coming in telling me the test made all the difference. But you get to choose either one or the other. The person that sent you to this webinar, tell them what plan is the one that you want. We'll get it shipped right out to you. What you have to tell them is on the Biome webinar for the special. That's the code word, the Biome webinar, and we'll get you all taken care of. So I got a question for you, is if you don't do something now, well, when will you? You've known about these issues. You've felt them. Now here's the solution. Here's an answer that you've been looking for. Please, I beg, don't wait any longer. Your family deserves to have you around. You deserve to be around. Your work here is not yet done. You have more to do, more to experience, and more to explore. So please, if you leave it, it will only get worse. Medications will not cure you. They will treat you and give you other ailments. I appreciate your time. I thank you for your attention. 3Believe is here. We're dedicated. I've spent my career making sure that we are providing the finest technology, the finest products made available, and I hope that you take advantage of. So again, the two offers, you get everything, the gut test, the blood test, the food for 30 days, all of the other coaching, the enzyme, the probiotics, the whole work, $797. The other plan that doesn't have the gut test, doesn't have the enzyme identification, doesn't have that personalized coaching, that's $397. Just tell the person that sent you which plan you want. The code word is Biome for either test is Biome 797 or Biome 397. That's the code word to get those special pricing. So thank you again. I appreciate it. I know I don't love you, but I do this work because I love you and I care about you. I want you to be healthy. Thank you and good night.